Resident Evil has introduced a lot of iconic villains throughout the years. Think of Mr. X and Nemesis in Raccoon City. Their towering presence and relentless pursuits creating unforgettable moments of terror. Or Chief Irons, a disturbing example of how absolute power corrupts someone into a horrible monster. While I love all Resident Evil villains equally, I believe that there is one villain that manages to be so good that they rise above the rest. They are so entertaining, so intimidating, that they kept me glued to the game hoping I'd be able to get to see them more. And that is Karl Heisenberg. Take a seat. Karl Heisenberg is one of the four lords of the village, and a reoccurring villain that you'll run into throughout Resident Evil 8. He is immediately set apart from the rest of the lords with his rugged appearance, wearing a long coat, sunglasses, and usually wielding his giant mechanical hammer. All the lords in Resident Evil 8 share a very distinct horror route, that being very old gothic monsters, challenging Ethan's resolve in their own ways. Such as Lady Dimitrescu being a spin on Dracula, of vampires surrounded by their followers in the castle of the nearby village. Donna Beneviento emulating a haunted dollhouse in the side of the mountain, forcing Ethan to confront his trauma that he's experienced thus far. Morrow being this repulsive monster, reminiscent of that of the creature from the Black Lagoon, flooding part of the village to make use of his ability to mutate into a giant fish. And Heisenberg is no different. Heisenberg is based in the story Frankenstein, where a mad doctor creates the means to reanimate the dead using electricity. Frankenstein's monster, sometimes known as Adam, is an amalgamation of parts that the Dr. Frankenstein could gather, and so becomes what the town see as a monster, which gains him disdain from the people around him, causing Adam to rebel against their creator for creating such a monster. Heisenberg follows a lot of the same beats as the original Frankenstein story. Mother Miranda was trying to find the perfect host to bring Eva, her daughter, back, so she would kidnap members of the village in order to experiment on them. One of these test subjects would turn out to be Karl Heisenberg. She would torture Heisenberg with the procedure by inserting the cadeau, which gave him the ability to control electricity throughout his body, which in turn gave him the ability to control the magnetic fields that allow him to move metal. This creates a force of tension between him and Mother Miranda. He lives his entire life in servitude towards her, which he even calls out as humiliating to Ethan in his factory.
She took me. Took us to be her children. She locked us away in the village. Decades of being forced to serve her. Can't understand that humiliation.
Heisenberg's disdain can even be felt with the other lords of the village during your first run-in. The first time you meet Heisenberg is in the dungeon under Lady Dimitrescu's castle. You approach a lever to open a door when you begin to hear a voice from behind you. There's a man approaching you with scraps of metal beginning to float around him. He fails to recognize you as a local and is intrigued by this. He captures you using the scrap pieces of metal around him, where Ethan passes out. Coming to, we are faced with horrific monsters like a living doll and mutated fishman when Heisenberg scares them away, revealing someone cloaked entirely in dark robes. You begin to overhear the argument that Heisenberg is having with somebody else, where you're able to piece together that they're trying to decide what to do with you. The arguments come to a close when it's decided that you will be given to Heisenberg, where the fight begins to get even more heated between Heisenberg and Dimitrescu. They begin to throw harsher and harsher insults at each other until the cloaked figure calms down the argument, revealing themselves as Mother Miranda, with their wings unfurling and allowing Heisenberg to take control of Ethan's fate. Heisenberg begins to reveal his showmanship side as he gathers all the Lycans to chase Ethan down the tunnels. Heisenberg stands apart in the scene due to his aggression on the other lords, such as telling Donna Morrow to shut the fuck up! This tells us pretty quickly how lowly he thinks of the other lords of the village. Heisenberg looks down on the other lords and is quick to belittle them for their blind faith towards Mother Miranda, going as far as to later call Dimitrescu
Lady, supersized bitch.
Donna
Ugly ass psycho doll.
and Morrow.
And that moronic freak.
This scene also shows off Heisenberg's natural showmanship with how he decides against just straight up killing Ethan. Instead, he yells for Lycans throwing in as many as he can before sending them down the tunnels to chase Ethan. This also creates the natural intrigue as to why Heisenberg didn't just kill Ethan. We later find out that this is Heisenberg testing Ethan as he wants to see if he has what it takes to kill Mother Miranda. We can also tell that Dimitrescu sees Heisenberg as to not be trusted. There could be a few reasons for this, but the main one I could find was that Heisenberg was probably asking the other lords about their allegiance with Mother Miranda. This would explain Morrow sitting blankly at the TV in his room. It's just that Dimitrescu has caught on to Heisenberg and believes that he has a second motive. Throughout Resident Evil 8, Heisenberg talks to us through radios he laid out in the village and guides us on our journey. The first time he tries to gain the trust of Ethan, he gives you a flask that contains a part of Rose, a massive step forward in Ethan's journey. Heisenberg plasters his family's logo of the Iron Steed on the screen. He tells Ethan to head towards his factory where he plans to meet face to face. Once we arrive at Heisenberg's factory, we find a board with the crossed out pictures of the lords that we had just killed. But before we can get a good look at it, Heisenberg makes his presence known. Here Heisenberg lays out his plan to kill Mother Miranda, while we hear the sound of an engine roaring in the basement, which Heisenberg has to stop and yell,
Shut your fucking hole!
Heisenberg begins to go over the plan once more as he reveals to Ethan that he plans to use Rose, Ethan's daughter, as a weapon to kill Miranda and gain revenge for the torture that she put Heisenberg through. Ethan outright refuses to work with Heisenberg, even when offered a second chance. We're then dropped into the pit where we could hear the engine roaring, and we come face to face with the first of many of Heisenberg's creations, Sturm. This gives an extra piece of insight into why Heisenberg is helping Ethan. Heisenberg wants to defeat Miranda because he hates her for what she'd done to him, experimented and thrown him away after she was done. Heisenberg helps Ethan as he believes that he can assist in taking down Miranda and earning his freedom. He also helps Ethan in retrieving all the fragments of Rose. We can also assume that this isn't from the good of his heart, but due to him wanting to use Rose as a weapon to defeat Miranda. Now I get to talk about my favourite aspect of Resident Evil 8, the design of the areas. I may not be a game designer, but I really love the aesthetic of this game. Resident Evil 8 has so many different types of architecture shown throughout the game, from the village itself having shacks along the road that you take shelter from the Lycans outside, to the finer house of Louisa. This provides the player with comfort from the Lycan attacks moments before, as it's brightly lit with decorations lining the walls such as plants and family photos. In the main room of Louisa's cabin, we have a fireplace that provides the light and also provides heat and warmth to the player. Skipping ahead, we have Dimitrescu's castle. Suddenly the comfort of the houses in the village is gone as the colours from the walls drain, leaving us with dark greyish tones and the bright blinding white glaring in from the outside of the windows. This all changes with Heisenberg's factory, where we're subjected to completely pitch black hallways with the occasional strip of light coming in to light the way, or molten metal in the casting room. The factory is also far more imposing from what we've seen already, such as Dimitrescu's castle having gold accents and patterns lining the walls, creating a spectacle to look at, or Donna's cabin, which drops the grandeur that Dimitrescu had used, presents itself as a normal home with decorations such as self-portraits, books and dolls. Heisenberg flips this on its head with his factory, containing exposed bricks and large dangerous industrial fans. The narrow hallways throughout the factory make it easy for some enemies to take you by surprise, or worse, when a hulking enemy takes up the space, leaving you no room to run, meaning you have to fight. The ambience in Heisenberg's factory is also a stark contrast from the rest of Ethan's journey. In the village, the sound of wind blowing is the main thing that you're going to focus on, alongside the sound of the snow crunching after every step, giving you the illusion of the cold winters that the village deals with. It's also eerie as it can sometimes feel too quiet, leaving you wary of any Lycans that will jump out at any second. Heisenberg's factory, on the other hand, is sensory overload to someone like me. The sound of each machine roaring in the background, no matter where you are, gives the perfect cover for an enemy to sneak up behind you, no matter how loud. And when venturing through the factory, we come across the assembly line of Heisenberg's army, the Soldats. To me, the Soldats are some of the best and most unique enemies in the game, with the most interesting designs and gameplay that forces you to watch how they approach. But what are they? The Soldats are Heisenberg's experiments. Humans ripped apart and reassembled with machinery, replacing their hands with drills, their hearts with a cadeau, and sometimes armored head to toe. Heisenberg would test them against hundreds of Lycans so that one day he could overthrow Miranda. In-game, this is reflected by the Soldats being hulking machines that can't be killed normally. They are tanking and will do a lot of damage if a hit were to connect. Luckily, the smaller ones can be dealt with destroying their helmets first. The same does not go for the bigger Soldats. The ones with one drill already start to become a massive problem. They sponge up a lot of damage done and will use up all of your ammo if not careful. They have a small red hole in their chest, which is a weak spot, causing maximum damage when shot. Though, the Soldats are also aware of this oversight and will begin covering their weak spots, so you need to play smart, beating out attacks to give yourself the opportunity to attack them. Then there are the giant Soldats. These Soldats are covered head to toe in armor, hiding their weak points and making it impossible for your guns to damage them. In most cases, there's nothing you can do and need to run. But if you feel like you can take them on, explosives remove their armor, allowing you to take some shots. In most situations, there are a lot of external pressures making it difficult to focus on dealing with the Soldats, such as near the end of Heisenberg's factory where you begin getting chased by two giant Soldats. The final Soldat is special, and is named Sturm. Sturm is the main enemy who stalks Ethan throughout the factory. We first run into him when we're dropped into the factory by Heisenberg, where we see his silhouette through a wall, which folds out to reveal a hulking Soldat, wearing what appears to be a giant propeller powered by an engine where his head should be. His engine roars as he charges towards Ethan, attempting to cut you up, forcing you to run further into his factory in order to escape him. Sturm is one of Heisenberg's main creations, which Heisenberg considers to be nothing but a total failure. We can read this in his notes talking about how he managed to get his arms stuck in the propeller, and that he seems to lack intelligence. He also notes that all he does is charge in a straight line due to the power output from his reactor, which makes him overheat. This becomes useful in your fight later on with him, as what starts as a narrow hallway slowly crumbles into a large room. All the encounters with Sturm are incredibly great moments to me, as they all have a sense of urgency, such as the second encounter when you're done exploring the first layer of Heisenberg's factory. Sturm will burst through a wall, sending you on the run, but this time there are obstacles like some pipes that you need to slip under, or enemies that block the path, giving the player a sense of panic as they need to quickly kill the enemies or die in a struggle. The final confrontation with Sturm is a fight in a narrow hallway, which can at first be a bit stressful to navigate and not get hit due to the damage Sturm would inflict upon you. Sturm also has its own unique power supply on the back of their head, making it hard to hit. I believe that the Soldats represent the cycle of hate that Mother Miranda started when she experimented on Heisenberg, with Heisenberg experimenting on the corpses of the villagers, and that Sturm, Heisenberg's greatest creation, represents the years of torment that Heisenberg had to go through under Mother Miranda, fully unleashed. Sturm seems to be extremely aggressive throughout the factory, often charging headfirst with little regard for himself, even hurting other Soldats that get in the way. After the crawl through Heisenberg's factory, you finally return to the surface through a barn, where you can see scraps of metal and a tractor. You also notice a door to finally escape the factory, but as you reach to leave, you notice bolts in the door becoming loose and shaking around, alerting you to Heisenberg's arrival, where Heisenberg tells Ethan that he's going to kill him up in Miranda before mutating right before your eyes, where the metal begins to enclose around him, at which a saw grows out from under the pile to reveal a mutated Heisenberg, which knocks you back down into the factory. Heisenberg's magnetic powers are one of the most defining elements of his character, the way he uses it to carry himself in meetings with Ethan, like the one in the barn, where he uses the magnetism to create stairs. This gives you a feeling of dread due to the area you just passed through being Heisenberg's domain. You're surrounded by metal, and he can easily just kill you now, but decides to just knock you back into the factory to deal with later. At the bottom of the factory, you run into Chris Redfield on his hold side mission. He had been putting together a tank made from metals that Heisenberg couldn't control. Using the tank and a conveniently placed elevator, you climb back to the surface and confront Heisenberg one final time. This time, you battle a giant monstrous Heisenberg, because Resident Evil didn't have enough of those apparently, and defeat him to prevent him from stealing power from the soon-to-be-defeated Mother Miranda. This fight isn't great due to how clunky it can feel, but once you get the hang of it, you will not be losing at all. I love Heisenberg so much, if you couldn't tell. Unlike the other villains in Resident Evil, like Nemesis and Mr. X, your giant hulking monsters who can only charge at you with little regard for anything else, Heisenberg stood out for his ability to speak and his motivations that can give you empathy for a situation, but also give you the push to stop him, due to him going about his revenge in the worst way possible and using Rose as a weapon and turning the villagers into his own experiments. I also fell in love with the uneasy feeling that the Soldats gave me. The corpses reanimated as machines. It gave me a sense of body horror that I had not thought of when I was first introduced to the concept. The idea of your body being ripped apart to be replaced with more and more machine. It even manages to emulate the Frankenstein routes by making the villagers into hulking monsters without the ability to speak, or complete loyalty to Heisenberg, completing the cycle that Mother Miranda started. It has taken me over half a year to make this video, my computer completely dying, losing all the files I was going to use in this video in the first place, including my avatar that I use on my channel. Sorry for the wait, by the way. But alongside all the existing issues, I wanted to do my favourite villain right, and really hope you enjoyed my somewhat shallow analysis of Karl Heisenberg. Also, if you have any fun facts about Karl Heisenberg, feel free to comment them below. Thanks for watching.